All right, welcome everybody. This is Hearts of Wulin, Academy of the Blade, and we have got an all-star cast of characters and players ready to go for this game. What I would like to do is start with a quick round of character introductions, and then I will speak just for a moment about the Gauntlet and what the concept of the game looks like, and then we will get into actually playing. So let's go ahead and do some player introductions. So you go ahead and say your name, and if you have an online handle you would like to throw out there, anything like that, and then introduce your character. I'm just going to go in character keeper order, starting with Jesse.
Yes, I am. My name is Jesse. My pronouns are he, him, and I am playing Kit Fox. They, them. Kit Fox is the dropout playbook with the game breaker role. They used to be the golden child. They were best student, best duelist, you name it. Father's favorite kid, the headmaster's favorite kid, from a rich family with a long history with the school. But something happened. They fell from grace. We don't know exactly what yet. Something mysterious and magical and dangerous, and they sort of disappeared off the face of the earth for a month or two. But they've returned to school, tail between their legs, knowing one thing: the people that push them, who no longer support them, well, they're going to push back. Screw this school, and screw my dad, and screw the headmaster, and screw anyone else who cares about the place. They fight with a glaive, a spear with a sort of long and decorated blade that has a sort of long gray sash tied on at the where the blade meets the haft. And I think if you want to talk about their intro sequence, I think it's them sitting with a sort of petting a gray fox in their lap, and then the fox looks towards the camera, hisses, and growls. It's a fox, doesn't hiss, it growls, like bares its teeth, and runs off towards the camera. And you see Kit jump gracefully to their feet, the glaive appearing in their hand, and just sort of swinging it with the streaming what did I call it? A sash? The streaming there's a word for this thing that I used a minute ago. It's cloth. The thing streams across, and sort of comes right across the sort of camera lens, and that's the screen wipe to the next character's intro.
I love it. Let's go ahead. I think this is a fine way of doing the intro sequences. We'll just do those kind of as we jump from character to character. So let's do that screen wipe, and then we come to our next character, Jen. If Jamie, you would go ahead and tell us about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think just to keep the visual going, as the screen wipes, we see that it's Jin pulling back the curtain at the classic literature book club. And so because this is a fancy ass school, this library is several stories tall. You know that really fancy famous library somewhere in Europe? I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's just stories and stories of shelves that bend towards the middle in a church-like way. I think the manga artist got direct inspiration from that place to create this. And so Jin is pulling back the curtain. We see that they have black purple hair, golden eyes. They have a very intricate and elaborate version of the dress school uniform, purple buckles. I think with the trick of the light, are there devil wings and a tail and some horns? No, of course not. And as they turn around, there are other people who look annoyed at the classic literature book club because there's the door is starting to cave in, and there are all these students who are trying to come in to see Jin. And so Jin just smiles apologetically at everybody in the club. opens the window and just jumps out beautifully, like roses streaming past their face. So I'm going to say, before I say what the next transition wife is, Jin Watanabe, they, he pronouns. I'm Jamie. I use they, them pronouns. And so Jin is part of the Bone and Blade faction, an ancient fraternity group that set up the school in the first place, but they're undercover and they're pretending to be part of the classic literature book club. Jin comes from a painfully wealthy family that may or may not have made deals with several devils. They totally did. They absolutely did. And Jin is one of many children and has absolutely nothing to prove. So they've turned to hedonism. They don't know they don't know why they're fighting the duels, only that they are compelled to do so, and that the school is like stopping them from remembering what was so important. And I think, to cut back to, oh, I forgot to mention I'm playing the flirt, right? So that's very important under the class clown playbook. And so when Jin lands gracefully and perfectly on the ground, there's a moment where we see in the window, we see a different version of Jin, one who looks much more serious. I think it's like the Jin from last year, but then that image fades, like a hint of what they lost. And as they walk past, I think Jin looks up, and it's that like really dramatic anime cut of like them looking towards the sky, and it hits towards the sun, right? So that's the next transition where it's bright light before we see the next character.
We get the lens flare and the screen briefly turns white
Right.
before it fades into our next character, Zashi. Sam, let us hear all about them.
Yeah, so I think the camera immediately pans back down, and we are in a different part of the school. We are right at the very front gates, and a car drives up, and a woman kind of pokes her head out of the driver window, waves at the boy that is getting out of the back seat. He's carrying this big pile of books, and he kind of stumbles out of the car and waves back to his mom, who gets back in the car and drives away as this figure looks up at these big arched gates that make up the kind of the entryway to the school. Zashi is a very young looking boy. He has ear length blonde hair. He uses he, him pronouns. He's got this naive smile. He's got very like big excited eyes that always have this little bit of like glint in them, no matter what the lighting in the room actually is. He's a little bit overdressed in kind of a, you can tell he's overdressed kind of way. He looks like he's trying to impress somebody, even though there's nobody to impress. And so we continue into the school with some kind of title credits going across the screen as he's walking up these steps. And you can see people in the background are just kind of pointing and snickering as he's walking up the steps. And the title wipe after he finishes is the very last step. He trips and spills forward, and all the pages go fluttering and flying and obscure the camera, and we fade into the next character. But really quickly, Sashi is the ingenue character. He is a newcomer to the school. He has been basically driving, moving his whole life from city to city. He's the only son of a single mother, and so he's never really had any time to make long-lasting connections. And so he's going in, trying to find his place in this school and figure out where he lives. I never introduced myself. My name is Sam. I use he and him pronouns. You can find me on the Twitter at Typhos Games if you want to go and follow me on social media somewhere.
Absolutely. And we have this explosion of pages. I imagine there might be a test that flies up in front of the screen that has a failing grade in big red lettering on it. And as we explode away from that, we have ourselves face to face with the last of our characters, Tomi. John, you can take it away.
Yeah, so this failing test, the camera centers on it and it zooms back and you see a failing test on Tomi's desk as he's sitting there slumped over it. This bead of sweat dramatically hanging from his brow, but then his phone vibrates and he looks at it and he sees he's got row practice starting in 15 minutes. And so he bolts from the classroom, grabbing his bag as he runs out the door. And then the next thing, we've got a smash cut to him out on the lake, rowing with his team. Fish are jumping as they row along. And I will pause there to talk about Tomi. So Tomi Yozen, him. He is the club president from the Club Ace playbook. He is president and captain of the row team. He is a tremendous athlete, though drawn in still a very petite fashion, with close cropped hair and sort of these stony eyes to show his presence and his persistence and always pushing. But as we've already seen, he's not a great scholar. He is about to flunk out of the academy if he doesn't get his act together. And so jumping back to our intro scene, so as one of the oars dips into the water, a splash of water comes up that covers the scene. I feel like then it comes back to some like dueling arena. Tomi, in a burst of speed, rushes forward with a trident, lashing out. And I think at this point, it probably like brings the whole ensemble back together, right? And like all of us dueling at different points as then the title scrolls across.
Yes, that's the part where we go from the verse in the theme song to the chorus, and we have the fast montage of everyone showcasing their different fighting styles, and then we of course go to that title card as we cut to black and open with our first scene. And at this point, I'd like to just say a few words about what this game actually is. Hearts of Wulin Academy of the Blade is a Kickstarter variant for the core Hearts of Wulin game that takes it and turns it into high school anime melodrama with duels. The game takes place in an expensive private boarding school in this anime world where the wealthy send their kids. Some of them are not from wealthy families but have scholarships. Others still have invitations from the school to join. The interesting thing about this school is that behind the scenes are the duels, sanctioned combat between students that determines all manner of things, as subtle and meaningless as who goes to the dance with who, which club gets funding, all the way up to who gets expelled, who disappears and is never heard from again. The school is composed of a student body that is lorded over by a student council, but rumor has it that the student council is lorded over by a shadowy student council. No one knows who's on this council or whether they really exist, but rumors do persist that they and other secret societies exist. Perhaps they are plotting to take over the school? Time will tell. This is all part of the Gauntlet role-playing game calendar. The Gauntlet is an online gaming club with a focus on indie, story, and OSR-style tabletop role-playing games. They also produce a wide array of podcasts, blog posts, and a semi-regular zine that gets published a number of times throughout the year. If you are watching this and are interested, you can find out more at gauntlet-rpg.com. So with that being said, we've got a few minutes to get some opening scenes going, and I would like to open up with, we'll go with Sashi, the newcomer. Sashi, you get to start off with a big decision here. What season does this story take place in? Is it spring, summer, autumn, winter?
Yeah, I think we've established that Zashi joined the school sometime in the middle of the school year. So I want to say that this is maybe like very early spring, like the trees are just starting to bud. It's still a little bit cold out, so maybe all of the rowing sequences have Tomi in like the jackets and the kind of the frosty air and the morning practices type thing.
Yes, there is this mist that hangs over the water where they practice. You have these close-up shots of the frosty air. You can see the breath being expelled as they're rowing. And yet at the same time, as it warms up, you get to see these cherry blossoms emerging from the trees that sort of make up the quad as we zoom to the great admin building where an assembly has been called. And the assumption, I think, is that the four of you are present, and I assume that you are all present with your various factions. Is that accurate, or is there anyone who might be doing something different above and beyond just being with their faction for this assembly?
So I'm present. I think that my faction is like probably not. They're mostly not students, right? So I think that there might be like one or two people loitering around, maybe someone like leaning against the door outside smoking or whatever. But like I'm probably either by myself or with like one or two other people, like not with like a larger group.
Got it. So it's you and a couple of essentially extras, it sounds like, who are...
Yeah, I think so. I don't think like this is like the important people in the faction are not in school.
Absolutely.
Right,
so
I want to say that Sashi is sitting with the rowing team because Suto, who has been assigned as my guide, is a member of the rowing team, and so I've been just kind of I'm following her around because she's showing me what all this is, and so that's where I ended up.
And what do we see of Tomi as he sees Suto standing very close to Sashi?
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the middle. I'm picturing this as like right before the assembly fully begins. And so I'm probably briefing the team on, this week's practice schedule, any changes to the, assignments. And I think I probably catch Suto talking to Sashi, and I have to, Suto, pay attention. And I just shoot a glare at Sashi as I go back to discussing the more important matters at hand.
I think Sashi completely misses and just like waves at you.
I imagine, Tomi, that the rest of the club is also shooting daggers at these two, because you, as the president of the rowing team, have a lot of sway over who they like and who they don't like. And if you're telling one person to, hey, everybody else does the same thing. You have all these extras in the background who in synchrony do the whole like finger to the mouth thing, and shh. That's what we see in the background. And what do we see of Jen as the assembly is nearing its beginning?
Yeah, I think what's supposed to be the area where the classic literature book club hangs out, instead there's a gaggle, like a huge group of all these different students just surrounding Jin, trying to get their attention. And we just hear Jin's lilting voice say, now, my dears, don't worry, my lovely kittens. I'll get to each and every one of you and give you the attention you deserve, my dears. I think there's a part where Jin plays coy and says, oh, but we can't get too close. My boyfriend Shinji will get awfully jealous. And I think that's when Jin is somewhere in the area, like I guess with the student council group. And Jin catches his eyes for a moment before returning to a book that is in their hands that they were pretending to read, but it's upside down. They're obviously not reading the book.
I imagine that as you utter these alluring words, we have of course, the slow pan up from your feet to showcase Jin's entire beautiful body, and there's the backsplash of roses, and you hear and you have like all the different extras in the background posing and doing all they're just like blown away by how pretty this person is, and that's kind of our introduction to Jin.
Perfect.
I think what will happen at this point is the student council president, Dyer Axolotl, their name is, we have determined, will step to the stage, and they have, I imagine, this great flowing duelist sort of robe behind them. You know, it's overly elaborate. It takes up half the stage as they glide out there. There's a constant fan effect turned on behind it. It's billowing even when the air is utterly stagnant. And they will go to the mic and give a few kind of cursory greetings and salutations to the student body, really making themselves up to be very authoritative. And then they will make the announcement that really kicks things off. And in just a matter of weeks, the Academy will be hosting the first annual cultural festival. Each club must come up with some kind of event to put on for this cultural festival. It can be any number of things. You might, for example, if you were part of a theater club, put on a play. If you were part of a musical club, put on some kind of performance. Other clubs are thinking about putting on haunted houses. They'll do up the classroom into like a little haunted house and people walk through and get scared. Other clubs still will put together things like food booths. Rumors have it that people have thought of already putting out kissing booths, things of that nature. Is there going to be a dance competition? Who knows? But the point is that in only a matter of weeks, each club is going to be tasked with putting on some sort of event that really showcases what they're all about. The student council is going to judge which of these clubs does the best, and the winner will be presented with some sort of major reward. And there are hushed, excited whispers as this announcement is delivered to the group. How does Kit respond, standing in the back, not really a member of any particular club, to this news?
I mean, Kit's already trying to think about the best way to sabotage it, right? Do they bring in the Dust Devils to be like kind of spoiler participants? Do they try to undermine all of the clubs? Do they try to get a ringer on the student council? They're not sure yet. Do they just show up and see what they can break? Who knows? But they know that this is you can see there's like a scheming look on their face. And maybe they even look towards Suto as sort of like maybe a first step, thinking, oh, I can talk to her. Maybe she can give me some insight into what the rowing club's going to do, and we can start by sabotaging that.
Absolutely. So your radar and your sights are set on Suto, who is sitting close to Sashi. Perhaps Tomi is off on the side, still kind of glaring at them. Or is he? What is Tomi, the president of the rowing team, thinking as this announcement is put forth?
Well, this is big. We're going to have to do something big. I will say Tomi is already immediately, suspecting that there could be foul play in all of this. Though my initial thought is that it would come from the Aero Club, from the pilots. And so, but, club to club sabotage is not unheard of. But we're going to have to do something, and we're going to have to make it splashy, because this could very well, determine the future of our club's health. So definitely, I think you see Tomi like pull out like a little notebook and make a note, like schedule special team meeting to discuss event planning.
Absolutely. And I think that this is illustrated in the story. I think at some point you lock eyes with our NPC, Yasunaka, who, if I recall correctly, is, I'm going to pull it up here. Yes, the captain of this Aero Club. I think that there's a bit of competitiveness that we see between the two of you, as we see, just the shot of their eyes and then the shot of your eyes. And there's this moment of recognition between the two of you before we cut away to, I think, Sashi. Are you aware of this moment of tension between Tomi, or is your mind elsewhere during this?
I think Sashi is in the that they're sitting in the crowd as everybody's standing around listening, around listening to this announcement, and they say cultural festival, and everybody gasps, and Zashi's just like, what did what's going on? What did I miss? So Zashi is just like, I think, been forgotten in the moment of all of this, and so has a minute to kind of look around and see what everybody he's not been included in any of the whispered conversations, and now has a moment where no one's really paying attention to me.
I think that one person briefly will pay attention to you, and that is Suto, the ambassador who has been assigned to kind of help you to assimilate into the school. I think that they, surely with no further subtext, will lean over to you, noticing your confusion, and gently place their hand on yours. And they will whisper, "This is a big deal."
Yes, it is. And I've no, what are you talking about?
You're asking Suto what they're talking about?
Yes.
The cultural festival.
Right. The festival. Yes. And I look down at my hand.
Is something wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. What is the cultural festival?
It's just a thing that we do here. It's a way to showcase kind of all the different clubs. People go around and they go to the different clubs, like rooms that they set up, and they have events. And it's really not a big deal. But Tommy's gonna make this into a huge thing. So I mean, if you're gonna hang out with us, just be on the lookout for him. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Are you sure you're okay? You're blushing.
I'm fine. I'm just confused. My face does this when I get confused.
You look very confused then. And speaking of blushing, I think at this point we will go to the veritable harem that surrounds Jin. What is Jin's response to this sudden news?
Oh, I think at that point when they talk about the different booths and someone says, "Oh, we've heard of there being a kissing booth," Jin would say, "Oh, there can't be a kissing booth without me, of course." And I think there is a long-suffering president of the Classic Literature Book Club who is not happy with Jin being really disruptive. And Jin is like, "Of course, we're going to have a beautiful kissing booth. We'll enact all the romance scenes from different classics, such as Romeo and Juliet. Well, I'll be Juliet, of course." And they start rattling through all these different classic, relationships, and saying, "And only the highest bidder will get to be the Romeo to my Juliet. I look very good in a dress, mind you."
What do you think the president of the literature club's response to this would be? Is it going to be like a Jin, don't you start again? Is it going to be that kind of a thing? Or might they actually be convinced potentially? Maybe with a lucky hearts and minds roll or something to that effect.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to...
That reminds me, I really should have a dice roller set up.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm going to say that there's someone who doesn't go along with Jin very easily. I'm putting together a name and a picture for you and everything. But I think Jin tries to push them around and convince them. So definitely I would love to do a hearts and minds roll. I'm just getting a random name.
Absolutely. John, is it cool if we just go ahead and use your dice roller? That work?
What? No.
I don't know why I'm asking permission, but anyway.
Yeah. Some stuff has just very recently changed. So if you've not visited recently, it might look a little different. You have to officially make a room now versus just being able to type something random in. But it means it saves all of our rolls, and we'll have it in the future. So
cool.
Trade-offs.
Okay. Yeah, so I think Kenji is in the middle of like sputtering, like to cut me off. And I just lean over, place a finger on his lips. Now, Kenji, my darling, don't worry. I'm going to leave you with the juiciest role. So I will see if this goes well.
All
After
right.
I said all of that.
Which element would you like to roll with as we get off with the first move of the game?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna roll with my fire. I'm being very passionate in the moment, I think. And so let's see. I have so many tabs. Way too many tabs. Because I have so many Pinterest things open. 1 second. I think my fire is +1.
Yes, I'm seeing +1.
Okay, cool. So I'll go ahead and roll with a +1, 2d6, rolling. Oh, there it is, 8. So on an 8, let's see. For NPCs, they can instead choose to do any of the following, which is alienate, hesitate, overreact, or reveal, if they don't want to bow to my word. So they have that choice.
I see. I think that we're going to go with a hesitate here.
Sounds perfect.
This president of the literature club sputters and they lock eyes with you and you lock eyes with them, and my goodness, there is this moment of blushing as they see how beautiful you are, and they say, look, I think we should put this to a vote with the rest of the club, so table it for the next meeting. Bring it up then.
Absolutely. I'll open up my schedule. We can have a one-on-one meeting at your leisure. I mean, pleasure. I mean, whatever you like, my dear.
Of course. Perhaps later this week. And he's like chugging glasses of water and trying to clear his throat. Wonderful. And so what that means mechanically is you have +1 ongoing against them until there is a major change with them in the fiction. I suppose we should have a name for this president now at this point.
Oh yeah, I have them on the NPC tab. They're
Oh.
Kenji Ike.
Fantastic. We'll go ahead and write that in. All right. Brilliant. So I think at this point, unless there is anything that any individual student would like to do before the assemblies end, you will all be turned loose. You will have classes over the next few weeks, but you can expect them to be canceled left and right in order to give the various clubs time to prepare. This is a big deal. And so at this point, I think that what we'll do is just kind of go through and have some brief little vignettes, give people a chance to escalate conflict with others, to have inner conflict of their own, and then wrap up in 20 or so minutes with some stars and wishes. So I think that maybe we want to start off with, unless anyone really has something that they have on the agenda, maybe start off with Kit. And see if there is a certain kind of scene that you would like to have at this point.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. We want to sort of, so we want to do something with the entanglements, right? Is that like the sort of where we want to start?
I think that entanglements are a great place to start. As a matter of fact, the way you get XP primarily is through using the inner conflict roll, yes, but at the end of each session, you also get XP for each of the entanglements that you interact with.
So let's say Yasunaka approaches me. Maybe I have that conversation.
Absolutely. And where do you think Yasunaka, I assume, kind of trying to keep things on the down low, given your reputation.
Remind me where the assembly was held.
I imagine it was in the big old admin building, kind of at the center of campus. They've got a great big assembly hall where everyone stands in their rows, and they have the stage kind of thing.
So maybe there's like a kind of area sort of behind there that like backs up on either a classroom building or some trees or something that's like kind of semi-private, where I kind of like slip back to smoke. I think Kid is definitely a smoker. And like Yasunaka maybe like waits 5 or 10 minutes or whatever till like people have cleared out, and then kind of like slips in there, sort of figuring that's a good place to find me.
I imagine that Yasunaka, trying to make themselves look proper for the assembly, is dressed in this full aviation gear, and they shuffle over to you, kind of looking back and forth, making sure that no one sees the two of you together. And they will say, well, Kit, have you thought about it at all? Are you willing to train me?
I offer her a cigarette, sort of wordlessly.
She feels pressured enough that she takes it from you, even though she doesn't smoke.
Yeah. I sort of light it for her from mine, and say, so cultural. Sorry, what was it called again? The cultural
festival.
The cultural festival is coming up in a few weeks, right?
It is.
What's the piloting club gonna do?
It has to be an air show, right? Synchronized plane flying, smoke formations in the sky over the quad. I mean, that's what it obviously has to look like.
Tell you what. I can't ask her to like do a bad job, because I imagine the stakes of this are just as high as the stakes of the duel with Tomi, or almost as high.
When you say do a bad job, do you mean to sabotage her own club's performance?
Right. Like I feel like there's no way she'd like the stakes are just too high there, even relative to the stakes of the duel.
That would be a very tall order. I think that at this point, unless you had some serious leverage over her, that might be asking a bit much.
Yeah. Listen. I have some friends who like would really love just to be passengers when you're doing something like that. And this is for Dust Devils, right? And I think, would you be willing to take them up with you while you're doing your show? It would mean the world to them, and I'll give you what you want.
I see. I think that as you kind of bring in the idea of bringing in other people, she will, try to kind of take a drag off the cigarette and just start like sputtering and coughing. This is not something that she's at all used to or familiar with.
I kind of like clap her on the back. It's okay. Just breathe.
I guess so. I mean, who are these people? Do I know them?
No, they come from town, and they're just like to like be in the sky. They've never flown anywhere. They don't have our background, and they want to that rush that you get, and to do it like while anyone can see, while the whole school, the whole town is watching. It would just mean so much to them. And yeah, I mean, I think this is hearts and minds.
This is also a hearts and mind roll. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So which element would you like to roll with?
And I think I am rolling with, I mean, this is probably metal, right? This is like calculation here. So +0, 2d6 +0. Roll.
I saw that you rolled a
Oh,
7,
I see. I did something
Justin.
wrong. Okay, yeah, it was a 7. Yeah.
Got it.
I see the modifier. Yeah, I see what I did. Okay,
A-
it's cool.
Absolutely. So I think my initial thoughts are that Yasunaka will also hesitate here. I think that she'll give you the same kind of answer, like I don't know that I have. I mean, I am the president, but I don't know. I don't know if I have the authority to just tell everyone that we're bringing in. I mean, there's such a liability here. I mean, we need waivers. I mean, it's a whole thing. I mean, and she's sputtering and coughing and has clearly been shaken by this request.
I sort of smile, and I pat her on the shoulder, and I'm like, I say, well then, ask away, and I'll be in the audience in your duel with Tomi.
Okay, thank you. I think she will take her leave at that point. I think at this time we want to go to Jin. What might Jin be up to at this point?
I'm really tempted to go into Utena cut of like Shinji and Jin, like in the back of the like library or something. I'll say like we just cut to Jin fixing their clothes and their hair with Shinji in the background. Like it's very Utena, right? Like, did they not? We don't know. And then Jin turns to Shinji and is like, so how are things going with the, what was it you're a part of again, my dear? Right, the student council.
Shinji replies, well, to be honest with you, it's been stressful. Dyer is completely on pins and needles about this upcoming cultural festival. He has a real, as you might think, big interest in making sure that this thing goes off without a hitch. So, we've never done anything like this before.
Well, I'd be happy to help you, darling. I'm sure maybe Tomi and I could help you with something. Tomi's very helpful, I think.
Oh, really? I mean, don't you think that Tomi's gonna have enough going on? Aren't they the president of the rowing club? They're gonna be busy. Are you sure?
Well, and I sit in Shinji's lap. You're like best friends, aren't you?
Well, blush, 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 blush. We are definitely best friends. I mean, I could ask Tomi anything, and Tomi can ask me anything. That's perfectly fine. Don't you have enough to deal with the literature club? Why do you want to help so much?
Oh, Shinji, you're always going to be a priority for me.
Well, I can always put in a word with Dyer and see if there's anything that we might be able to make use of for you.
Well, how about we focus on what you need first and what Dyer needs, and then we'll see if there's something that I need help with.
Of course, of course. And I think at that point you can tell that you're. Would Jen have like a cell phone or some other way of being contacted?
Oh, can we have a mysterious Utena phone that's suddenly there, right? Like one of those like antique like phones
Like
that,
the little rotary thing.
yeah, if we're okay with being a little surreal, right? But like it suddenly rings in the library where a phone should not be, right? and
Absolutely.
uh and so Jin, oh, I'm sorry, I'll have to, and it's exact same color as Jin, right? It's also this weird dark purple, the phone. uh but yeah, and then Jin clicks to that weird dream-like way Utena is like suddenly the phone is there right next to Jin's face as Jin
Right.
says hello.
The voice on the other end is androgynous. It's hard to make out who exactly it is. It's not marked by any particular kind of characteristic. You recognize it as a shadowy contact from the Bone and Blade. Jin, Are you alone?
I look at Shinji and I cover the phone. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. Could we catch up maybe a little later?
Oh, of course, of course. They collect their things and get ready to head out of the room.
And I like wave prettily while holding up the phone. And then the moment Shinji is out of earshot, my voice changes and I say, I'm alone. What is it?
We've received the news of this festival. And we must meet. Midnight, the usual place, tonight.
Absolutely. I'll be there. Should I bring anything in particular for the meeting or?
Your weapon.
At that, like, Jin raises an eyebrow. Of course. My weapon and I will be there at midnight tonight.
Very well. Click. I think we will go to Sashi at this time. What is Sashi doing as people begin to file out? Any particular kind of scene that you want to have there?
I think that Zashi's scene is maybe a little bit later. And I think that Zachi, being new to the school, is kind of in the middle of like not really rushing, but like visiting all these different clubs and trying to figure out where they belong and doing all this other stuff. So I want to have a scene where Suto has brought me to the chess club, where I am meeting with the chess club president, I think, Hifumi. I don't know if she's actually the president or not.
Ooh, can we say she's like technically not the president, but she acts like the president?
Yeah. I love that. And so yeah, it's that scene. Maybe we're in like some abandoned classroom after school, and all the desks have these chessboards set up, and there's a bunch of extras in the background who aren't like they didn't bother animating the game, and so like every once in a while you'll just look and the game will be different, like the board will be different, but
But
nobody's
then
actually
people
moving.
watching the show are like, no, that's part of the surreal nature of the show, not
Yeah.
the low budget.
Every time it cuts back, the pieces are in a different position, and sometimes it's wildly different. And you know, eventually there's like the queen is on someone's shoulder, and it's just a whole thing. I see.
I love it.
And so you have entered this, you know, room. I imagine there's this great kind of chess hall. They've got the chess clocks, and people are pouring over and, you know, slapping the timers back and forth. And it's, you know, some people are doing speed chess and they're going, and you just see the blur of their hands going back and forth. Is there something in particular that you are coming to talk with Hifumi about, or that you are trying to do, or is Suto just kind of showing you around and introducing you to people?
I think this is Suto like showing me around, and I'm imagining Hifumi is almost trying to like recruit, especially since this is going to be all hands on deck. Everybody's going to be needed for the cultural festival. We need all the hands we can get.
Absolutely. Is Hifumi aware that you really offended Dyer whenever
Oh
you
yeah,
asked
that was
him?
the whole point.
It was deliberate. Okay, but you don't know that it was deliberate.
I don't know that it was deliberate.
Absolutely.
I think Hifumi was trying to help me out.
I see. I think in that case, what will happen is Suto is kind of taking you around from person to person and saying, "Oh, and this is so and so," and you know, they seem shy, but they're really very nice. And this person is a complete jerk. Don't talk to them. And they're kind of giving you the inroads into who's who in the chess club. And eventually, she'll bring you to Hifumi and say, "And this is Hifumi, your chess club. Is it vice president?" And Hifumi says, "Vice president," emphasizing the president part of it. And she will look up at you and give you this sweetest shark-like smile and say, "We've met before. How are you, Zashi? It's been so long."
Yeah, and I think it's the like very stereotypical like hey. Hi. I'm doing better. Who am I kidding? I've done better. You, I didn't make a very good impression on Dyer. I don't think it quite worked. Thank you for the advice, though. Do you have any other ideas?
Oh, well, she thinks for a moment. I have a few ideas, but I mean, it's such a toil. It's such a drain on my time to constantly be trying to help you, to talk to other people. And I understand that you're new, but really, though, we really should do something so that there's something in it for me, don't you think? I mean, I am helping you so much.
What did you have in mind? And you can see he starts to flush.
Well, you haven't actually joined a club formally yet, have you?
No, I haven't yet.
Tell me, Zashi, what do you know about the game of chess?
Absolutely nothing. It and like I think this is the point where he says that, and like a pawn goes flying and hits him in the side of the head from the speed chess that's going on next to them.
Well, she kind of looks you up and down, making, taking inventory and making an assessment of you intellectually, and says, I don't know, you might have some potential. You could be of use. We do need some people to fill out the novice tournaments. Please have a seat. And she kind of pulls over a chair next to an empty board and asks you to sit down. What do you do?
I very confused. Okay. Yeah. Sure. And
She, no,
kind of
go ahead.
awkwardly sit down. Definitely knock over a couple of the pieces that I hurriedly put back in their place.
She snaps her fingers, and a few extras will kind of rush over, and they have a chess timer with them, and they get the pieces all set up. And she says, why don't we give you a little test to assess your tactical acumen? And she has you sitting in front of another novice member of the chess team. Are you willing to risk some reputation by facing them in a game of chess?
What do I have to lose?
Very well. So I think that this is going to be an impress roll to see if you are able to win over Hifumi.
I was going to see if this was a duel with the, because we haven't had the dueling mechanic yet.
Well, in a manner of speaking, you might make the argument that it is a duel. I'm willing to go ahead and play with that mechanic if you'd like to call it a duel rather than an impress. I'll leave it up to you.
I think it would be kind of fun to have this be a duel with. So it's with this novice character. It's not actually with Hifumi.
If it were against well, I mean, we could make it so that it's against Hifumi. They would be obviously above your scale.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In the world of chess.
That's kind of what I was expecting. Is just like she's playing this game to judge my character and not actually give me any chance of winning this chess game.
Oh, okay, so she's going to be looking for if you're making the classic blunders or if you have intuitively kind of strategized your way out of making those. Very well. So she will give you a quick overview of the rules and then say, very well, go.
Ooh, could I suggest something?
Yes.
So that it's in line with, like, it's one of those anime moments where even if you're moving chess pieces, like it cuts to if you were actually using your weapons. Like this is obviously like a way of testing to see what you would be like in a duel, right?
I love that. That is very good.
So at this point, the way that duels work, of course, is that you always roll with your style element.
Mm-hmm. Which in my case is fire or passion. So
very well.
I am rolling with my passion and somehow passionately playing chess. I love it. So let's roll 2d6 plus 2. That is a 10.
Sashi gets the hard 10. So in that case, because this opponent is above you scale-wise. Let me see here. Yes,
If your hit is above your scale, you lose. On a hit, you may declare how you lose.
absolutely. So mark XP for losing in a duel or competition, and you may declare how you lose. You don't have to mark an element or take any kind of damage, though. That's what you get for having the 10 plus.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think that I marked that on the wrong character. Sorry, Jamie.
No worries.
Yeah, I think that this is the stereotypical. I love the Kenzashi survived 5 moves, and so like there's the scholar's mate that everybody around can see that Ifumi is about to just absolutely wipe the floor with Sashi, but at the last second, like the very last move before the scholar's mate happens, I just randomly happen to move the knight into a spot that blocks it perfectly, and it doesn't last much longer than that. It probably lasts another like 3 moves, but that alone was enough to at least impress her.
I imagine there's like this sudden, flash, and this is zoom in on Hifumi's face as you make that move, and there is this kind of glare of recognition, like, yes, in her eyes as she sees that you've made this brilliant tactical play. And I think that as the game closes out, she dispatches you quite handily after that. She will say you do have a lot of potential. What do you say, Sashi? If you join us, I bet I can find a way to get you in with Dyer. And if you want to make a decision, you may. Otherwise, we will leave it there as the cliffhanger and cut to Tomi.
I like that.
Excellent.
I like the figure.
So let's go ahead and do, just kind of a quick, kind of 6 or 7 minute scene with Tomi, and then we'll wrap up and do some stars and wishes.
Yeah, so I think Tomi's scene is going to take place in the clubhouse. So this actually is one of the things I chose for the Club Ace playbook. I have a clubhouse. It is the club's headquarters and safe space that is our territory, where we can go to regroup and plan our next move. So I think we see modest accommodations, though the chairs, there's these chairs that look like they've seen better days. They're probably maybe 2nd generation hand-me-downs at this point. And there's probably some, I'm wondering if there's like a club ranking poster or something that shows the row team as like maybe like 2nd or 3rd. We haven't, really hit that top spot. And then the camera pans over to Tomi up at a board writing Culture Festival. And just as he finishes writing, I picture Suto comes in. She is late. She's the last one to arrive. Typical. As Tomi notices. But he turns and puts that aside for a moment and says, well, you all heard the announcement. There's a cultural festival happening, and we have to make a big, impressive display. So we will now open the floor for nominations for what we will do. Okay, nominations are done. I have the answer. It will be a synchronized boat show. And then he takes the chalk and he says, yes, that will show them. That will show those scheming, flying hooligans. They'll never come up with anything as great as this. And then he will go to put it down. So I want everyone to be thinking and planning about how we can pull off the best synchronized boat show that anyone has ever seen. Are there any questions?
I imagine as you're giving this kind of like, yes, that will show that like the border darkens around you until you're just kind of like in this black spotlight, and then it suddenly snaps back and you're just in front of the well-lit hall with everybody. A question for you, does the rest of your club, are they into this idea? Like, do they like it, or are they like perturbed by it? They think it's the weirdest thing ever, but we're going to go along with it because Tomi said so? Like, what's the reaction that we're getting from these people?
I imagine the majority are just immediately like, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing. I think Suto might, be a little bit more independent, and maybe has a look on her face of a boat show.
Okay. So I will say that Suto doesn't actually say anything. Like she doesn't raise her hand and offer kind of a contrasting opinion, but you notice the look on her face. Do you say anything to her in front of everybody? Or do you wait until it's just a moment between the two of you?
I think if there's no questions, then I'll kind of dismiss the group. Okay, you have your assignment. I want to hear ideas. Go and look up some choreography and such. But then I'm gonna call Suto. Suto, do you mind hanging back for a moment?
Oh, sure. What is it?
Suto, you like rowing, right? You like being on the team?
Well, of course I do. It's pretty much my main thing.
Okay, I thought so. You seem distracted lately. You've been a little late at times, and I didn't quite see the enthusiasm that I wanted to see just now.
Yeah, she kind of is playing it off. She's doing the whole like, I'm gonna scratch the back of my head with my elbow way out here, doing the whole embarrassed anime thing. And she says, yeah, well, it's Sashi. I've had to go and show him around. I just saw, dropped him off at the chess club. Everything's fine. I'm sorry I was late. It's not that I have a problem with you. It's the boat show.
What's wrong with the boat show?
Out of character, is it okay that we say that the Aero Club is like one slot above?
I am, yeah, all for that.
She says, I did the math. She pulls up just a clipboard out of nowhere, and she's done like a bunch of math equations and things on it. I think this is outside of our budget. I don't know that there's any chance that we can make this happen. But I have an idea.
Okay, well, I'm always willing to listen to ideas. Go ahead, Suto. What's your idea?
It's the Aero Club. If we can take their spot in the leaderboard, this boat show can go off, I think, without a hitch. But you're going to have to duel him for it. Or her.
Yes. Yes, it's obvious now. Suto, you're absolutely right. I don't know how I could have overlooked this. Well, she's had it in for me for a while, so I'll do what I have to do for the club.
Do you want me to deliver the challenge, or will you?
No, I think I'll do it. I want to speak with Shinji first.
Of course. And I at this point, I did see that, Kit, you wanted to use your Silence in the Shadows move. For the sake of time, do we feel comfortable going ahead and resolving that role, or do we want to cut straight to Stars and Wishes and wrap up?
I think we can do with the move, yeah.
Okay. So we are going to go with Silence in the Shadows, and it sounds like, Kit, we want to hear how you were in place to overhear.
So I wonder if your meeting room is just like in that adjacent building, like on the other side of the alley. And so I'm outside the window there already. Does that work for you, Tommy?
Yeah, that totally works for me.
So like I think like in terms of like the time frame, right? Like I have my conversation and I'm sort of like finishing my cigarette, and I overhear this as you sort of like probably maybe even pull her towards the window a little bit, like away from the door where the other right people are leaving. So yeah, and I'm rolling this with all right, I think this is water. This is awareness, right? This is like, overhearing something in the background. So that's +1. Um, 1 roll. And that
Nice.
is a 10.
All right.
That is 10. So I overhear and manage to escape without detection. And now I have some information I can use either with Yasunaka or my sometime lover.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And so I very deliberately, when I heard the Aero, out of character, right? When I heard the Aero Club is doing a synchronized air show, I was like, well, that's what we're doing, obviously. So I'm totally cool. I don't know which portion of the conversation we're seeing overheard, but I'm totally cool with you taking that because I chose that specifically to brew
I'm actually
and things.
more interested in the challenge than in
challenge.
the
Gotcha.
because that's what I've got over the captain of the Aero Club.
Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely. I wanted to, I was thinking of opening with this for last time, but I just wanted to ask a quick question. Sashi, do you think that you're going to accept that offer to join the chess team?
I think I want to have a couple more scenes of like visiting some of the other clubs because I do want to have a scene with the book club and I want to have a scene with the Aero Club and things like that. But I think that it is a very real possibility that we start getting the chess club involved.
Got it. Perfect. So that actually gives me something to put down for wishes. And with that, I think that we will go ahead and wrap up here and go to Stars and Wishes. I'll stop the recording for that. And we will come back next time. Thanks, guys.